Ground-penetrating radar found a massive metallic structure buried 200 feet beneath Skinwalker Ranch. It's 300 feet long with perfect geometric angles that geology cannot create. Material density suggests metal alloys that don't exist in surrounding rock. The structure has been there for 2,000 to 3,500 years based on sediment layers above it. Most shocking, it's still active, generating electromagnetic pulses every 47 seconds. Subscribe now because what's buried under that Utah mesa predates known civilization and is operational ancient technology that scientists cannot explain. The discovery of the massive underground structure at Skinwalker Ranch wasn't a single eureka moment, but rather the culmination of months of systematic scientific investigation using progressively more sophisticated scanning technologies that built upon initial anomalous readings that the team couldn't explain through conventional geological or natural phenomena. The investigation began when Dr. Travis Taylor, the ranch's chief scientist with doctorates in optical science, aerospace systems engineering, and astronomy, was analyzing electromagnetic field data collected during routine monitoring of the property, and noticed consistent anomalies emanating from beneath the mesa rather than from the airspace above, where most of the ranch's documented phenomena typically manifest. The electromagnetic readings showed regular pulse patterns originating from underground that were too consistent, too structured, and too mathematically precise to be natural geological processes like piezoelectric effects from shifting rock layers under tectonic pressure or random mineral deposits creating magnetic interference. Travis proposed conducting ground-penetrating radar surveys to determine if there was a physical source for these electromagnetic emissions beneath the surface, and Brandon Fugel approved the substantial expenditure for commercial GPR equipment capable of imaging subsurface structures. The initial scans using standard archaeological ground-penetrating radar equipment could only penetrate approximately 30 feet deep, showing tantalizing hints of density anomalies that suggested something unusual was buried at greater depth, but not providing clear imaging of whatever was generating the deeper electromagnetic signatures. Recognizing the limitations of standard equipment, Brandon made the decision to bring in industrial-grade ground-penetrating radar typically used for mining surveys and deep geological assessments, equipment capable of imaging structures to depths exceeding 300 feet below the surface. These more powerful scans, conducted over a 2-week period covering the entire mesa area in a systematic grid pattern, revealed the full scope of the buried structure for the first time, showing a massive geometric object at a depth that placed it well below any known archaeological layers or historical human activity in the region. The data was so unexpected and contradicted known geology so dramatically that Travis initially suspected equipment malfunction or misinterpretation of natural geological features like lava tubes or mineral deposits. To verify the findings and eliminate the possibility of equipment error, Brandon contracted 3 separate independent geophysical survey companies to conduct their own scans of the same area using completely different technologies: gravimetric sensors measuring subtle gravitational field variations, seismic reflection surveys, and electromagnetic induction mapping. The technical specifications of the buried structure revealed through multiple independent scanning technologies provide unprecedented detail about its characteristics, dimensions, and properties that definitively distinguish it from any known natural geological formation or human construction in the archaeological record. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted over 6 months using multiple frequencies and scanning angles revealed an object buried approximately 200 to 250 feet beneath the mesa's surface, positioned at a depth that places it well below any known archaeological layers, historical human settlements, or mining operations that might have occurred in the region throughout documented history. The structure measures approximately 300 feet in length, 150 feet in width, and an estimated 40 feet in height, based on radar returns and density analysis, making it roughly the size of a modern commercial building buried completely underground. What makes the object unmistakably artificial rather than natural is its geometric precision that violates every principle of how geological features form through natural processes. The radar images show straight edges forming perfect right angles, parallel surfaces maintaining absolutely consistent distances across hundreds of feet, and symmetrical proportions that natural rock formations simply cannot exhibit because geological features form through processes like erosion, sedimentation, volcanic activity, and tectonic forces that create irregular, organic, asymmetrical shapes. The underground anomaly at Skinwalker Ranch displays all the hallmarks of deliberate construction, following a geometric design blueprint with mathematical precision. Material composition analysis using advanced gravimetric sensors that measure subtle variations in gravitational fields caused by different material densities revealed that the structure is significantly denser than the surrounding sandstone and limestone geology of the mesa. The density readings suggest the object contains metallic elements in concentrations far exceeding anything that would occur naturally in that specific geological context through mineral deposits or ore formations. Spectrographic analysis of electromagnetic signatures bouncing off the structure and returning to surface sensors indicates the presence of metals and possibly engineered metal alloys that don't match the iron oxide traces, copper deposits, and standard mineral content of the surrounding sedimentary rock layers. Most puzzling is the structure's orientation and positioning within the geological strata. It's not aligned with any natural geological features, fault lines, or sedimentary layers, but appears to have been deliberately placed at a specific location and precise depth, as if whoever or whatever constructed it wanted it hidden beneath a specific thickness of overburden but still at a recoverable depth rather than buried so deep it could never be accessed by future civilizations with drilling technology. The most unsettling and scientifically inexplicable aspect of the underground structure at Skinwalker Ranch isn't simply that it exists or appears artificially constructed, it's that the object is actively generating electromagnetic fields and energy emissions that prove it remains operational despite being buried for what geological analysis suggests could be thousands of years. This discovery transformed the investigation from an archaeological curiosity into a potential technological revelation that challenges fundamental assumptions about ancient civilizations and the limits of preserved functionality over geological timescales. Dr. Travis Taylor's electromagnetic monitoring equipment, positioned at multiple locations across the mesa and calibrated to detect extremely subtle field variations, detected pulses emanating from the buried structure at remarkably regular intervals averaging every 47 seconds. These pulses aren't random electromagnetic fluctuations or background noise from natural sources like lightning, solar radiation, or Earth's magnetosphere, but rather structured emissions with consistent frequency patterns, predictable amplitude variations, and directional characteristics that indicate deliberate signal generation rather than passive electromagnetic leakage from degrading metallic materials corroding underground. The energy signature operates primarily in frequencies between 1.6 and 2.2 gigahertz, a range that overlaps with modern satellite communications, radar systems, and wireless data transmission, but with modulation patterns that don't match any known human technology or natural electromagnetic phenomena documented in scientific literature. Most significantly, Travis discovered through months of careful correlation analysis that the underground electromagnetic emissions correspond precisely with anomalous phenomena observed above ground at Skinwalker Ranch. When the buried structure pulses with higher intensity electromagnetic bursts, the team simultaneously records increased UAP activity in the airspace directly above the mesa, sudden radiation spikes in specific areas of the property that trigger Geiger counters and dosimeters, and cascading equipment malfunctions affecting GPS navigation, radio communications, drone flight systems, and sensitive electronic instruments. The correlation between underground pulses and surface phenomena is too consistent, too precise, and too mathematically correlated to be coincidental, suggesting the buried structure is either causing the aerial phenomena through some unknown energy projection mechanism, communicating with whatever creates those phenomena through electromagnetic signaling, or serving as a beacon or homing device that attracts unknown entities or craft to this specific location. Analysis of the energy emission patterns reveals sophisticated characteristics that challenge explanation through any conventional framework. Determining the age of the buried structure at Skinwalker Ranch has proven extraordinarily challenging because conventional archaeological dating methods like radiocarbon dating of organic materials or thermoluminescence of fired ceramics require physical samples extracted from the object itself, which the team doesn't have access to without conducting full-scale excavation that involves drilling through 200 feet of sediment and rock. However, geological analysis of the sediment and rock layers positioned above the structure provides compelling indirect evidence about minimum age that has profound and disturbing implications for the timeline of advanced technological civilization in North America. Geological core samples extracted from multiple locations across the mesa using specialized drilling equipment show undisturbed sedimentary layers extending continuously from the current ground surface down to the depth where the buried structure is located. These layers represent hundreds or potentially thousands of years of continuous natural deposition, created through wind erosion carrying dust and particles, seasonal water flow depositing silt and minerals, organic decomposition from plants and animals creating soil overburden, and gradual accumulation of volcanic ash from distant eruptions settling across the landscape over centuries. The critical scientific observation that eliminates recent human burial as an explanation is that none of these sedimentary layers show any evidence of disturbance, excavation, or backfilling that would necessarily occur if humans had dug a massive hole measuring 300 feet long and 150 feet wide, lowered or constructed a building-sized object into that excavation, and then refilled the hole with soil and rock. If the structure had been placed underground at any point in recent historical or even prehistoric human history, the geological record would show clear disruption signatures in the sediment layers, mixed soil horizons, disturbed stratification, tool marks, compaction differences between original geology and backfilled material. The complete absence of such disturbance indicators in the core samples suggests the structure was already in its current position before the overlying sediment began accumulating naturally through geological processes operating over extended timescales. Geological dating of the sediment layers directly above the structure using optically stimulated luminescence, a technique that measures when mineral grains were last exposed to sunlight before being buried, indicates the overburden has been accumulating for approximately 2,000 to 3,500 years, meaning the structure must have been in place before that accumulation period began. This timeline predates any known advanced civilization in North America capable of creating sophisticated geometric construction at this scale, with apparent metallic composition and ongoing electromagnetic functionality. Determining the actual purpose and function of the buried structure at Skinwalker Ranch requires analyzing the energy patterns, emission characteristics, and behavioral responses documented through years of monitoring, leading investigators to several competing theories about what this ancient technology was designed to accomplish and whether it's still performing its original mission after thousands of years underground. Dr. Travis Taylor's analysis of the electromagnetic emissions provides the most compelling clues about functional purpose based on the signature characteristics of the pulses and their correlation with external phenomena. The regular pulsing electromagnetic fields operating in gigahertz frequency ranges closely match the operational patterns of modern radar systems, long-range communications arrays, or sophisticated sensor networks designed to detect and track objects or phenomena across vast distances. The fact that emissions operate on precise mathematical intervals rather than random or chaotic patterns suggests deliberate engineering for a specific functional purpose rather than accidental byproduct of material degradation or geological processes. Travis's leading theory proposes the structure functions as an ancient monitoring station that has been passively observing Earth-specific celestial phenomena or dimensional boundaries for millennia, automatically collecting data through its sensor systems and potentially transmitting compiled information to unknown receivers through the electromagnetic pulses detected by surface equipment. The emissions correlation with astronomical cycles provides supporting evidence for this monitoring station hypothesis. The structure's energy output varies in predictable patterns aligned with Earth's 24-hour rotation, shows amplitude changes corresponding to lunar orbital phases, and exhibits frequency modulations that track solar activity cycles, including sunspot formation and coronal mass ejections. This astronomical synchronization suggests whatever technology exists underground remains actively tracking planetary dynamics and celestial mechanics, maintaining operational alignment with cosmic rhythms despite being buried beneath hundreds of feet of accumulated sediment. Alternative functional theories proposed by team members and outside experts include power generation or energy collection capabilities, with the structure possibly serving as a geothermal energy harvesting facility that taps into Earth's internal heat, an electromagnetic field collection system that draws power from the planet's magnetosphere, or an exotic energy conversion technology that operates on principles beyond current scientific understanding. The consistent kilowatt range power output, detected through surface measurements over extended monitoring periods without any apparent fuel source or external power input, suggests either an incredibly efficient internal power generation system or environmental energy harvesting that has operated continuously for thousands of years without maintenance or refueling. Within hours of Brandon Fugel making public announcements about the underground structure discovered at Skinwalker Ranch during a scientific conference presentation, federal government agencies launched a coordinated and aggressive response clearly designed to suppress information, control access to the discovery site, and potentially prosecute Brandon and his team for violating national security restrictions that appeared to have been retroactively applied to cover this specific situation. The speed and intensity of the government's reaction strongly suggested they were already monitoring the Skinwalker Ranch investigation and had contingency plans ready to execute immediately if Brandon went public with findings about the buried structure. Department of Defense officials contacted Brandon directly by phone before he had even departed the conference venue where he made his announcement, demanding he immediately cease all public discussion, turn over all scan data and analysis results to federal custody, and halt any plans for excavation or further investigation of the underground anomaly. The officials cited national security concerns and invoked provisions of federal law allowing classification of discoveries on private property if they relate to technologies, materials, or information deemed relevant to defense interests or potential threats to national security. Brandon's legal team was simultaneously served with formal notices, warning that any further public disclosure of technical information about the underground structure could result in prosecution under espionage statutes, typically reserved for cases involving disclosure of classified weapon systems or intelligence operations. Pentagon lawyers argued in these legal notices that the electromagnetic signatures, potential advanced materials, and unknown technology represented by the buried structure automatically fell under government jurisdiction for mandatory national security review, regardless of whether the technology originated from human or non-human sources, and regardless of the fact that it was discovered on private property legally owned by Brandon Fugel. Most aggressive and revealing was the government's immediate attempt to acquire Skinwalker Ranch itself through purchase or legal seizure. Federal officials contacted Brandon within days of his announcement with offers to purchase the property at substantially above market value, framing the acquisition as a generous opportunity that would allow him to avoid potential legal complications, financial penalties, and criminal prosecution that might result from continued private ownership and investigation of a site now deemed relevant to national security. When Brandon firmly refused to sell despite increasingly generous financial offers, the tone of government communications shifted dramatically to threats of eminent domain proceedings where federal authorities could forcibly acquire the property by claiming national security necessity, justified overriding private property rights. Dr. Travis Taylor's comprehensive scientific analysis of the underground structure at Skinwalker Ranch represents the most detailed technical examination of potentially non-human or ancient advanced technology ever conducted by a credentialed scientist willing to stake his professional reputation on findings that mainstream academia refuses to acknowledge or seriously consider. Travis holds multiple advanced degrees, including doctorates in optical science and engineering, aerospace systems engineering, and astronomy, giving him unique multidisciplinary qualifications to analyze the complex technical aspects of electromagnetic emissions, materials science, structural engineering, and astronomical correlations that this discovery encompasses. His technical breakdown addresses three fundamental questions that define the significance of this find. What materials comprise the structure based on indirect analysis through scanning technologies? What functional purpose does it serve based on its energy emissions and behavioral patterns? And who or what entity possessed the technological capability to construct such a system and bury it at this location thousands of years ago? Material composition analysis based on electromagnetic induction responses, gravimetric measurements, and radar return characteristics indicates the structure contains metallic elements with density and conductivity properties suggesting titanium-based alloys, stainless steel compositions, or possibly engineered materials not found in Earth's natural geological processes. The electromagnetic reflectivity patterns captured by ground-penetrating radar show the structure has a layered construction architecture with different materials at various depths and positions within the object, similar to how modern engineered structures use different materials for different functional purposes: structural support, electromagnetic shielding, thermal management, equipment housing, rather than being carved from solid uniform rock or cast from single composition metal. Travis's analysis of the energy emission characteristics provides the most compelling evidence about functional purpose and ongoing operational status. The regular electromagnetic pulsing at 47-second intervals operating in gigahertz frequency bands matches signature patterns associated with radar systems designed for long-range detection, communications arrays transmitting data across vast distances, or sensor networks collecting and processing environmental information. The modulation patterns within these pulses show characteristics suggesting encoded information rather than simple carrier waves, implying the structure may be actively transmitting data about observations, measurements, or detected phenomena to receivers at unknown locations. Most intriguing is Travis's documentation of how the underground emissions synchronize with astronomical phenomena, including Earth's rotation creating 12-hour cyclical patterns, lunar phases causing predictable amplitude variations, and solar activity triggering frequency modulations. Brandon Fugel's decision to excavate despite government warnings required months of preparation, specialized drilling equipment capable of reaching 300+ feet, international teams of scientists and engineers, comprehensive safety protocols, and armed security to prevent federal interference. The strategy called for phased approach, preliminary test drilling at the structure's edge, remote sensing through drill holes, then controlled access shaft if safe. But as drill bits approached within 50 feet of the structure's surface, everything went wrong. Electromagnetic detectors registered massive energy spikes exceeding years of monitoring data. Equipment failed catastrophically. GPS lost satellite lock. Radios filled with static and strange tones. Cameras recorded distorted images. Most alarming were immediate health effects. Crew members experienced sudden headaches, nausea, disorientation, and nosebleeds attributed to radiation exposure or electromagnetic field interaction. Bryant Arnold's warnings about the structure defending itself proved accurate. The operation was immediately suspended. Some team members now refuse to participate in any further excavation attempts, convinced disturbing the technology triggers protective responses. If confirmed through excavation, this discovery rewrites everything. Proof of advanced civilization in North America thousands of years before mainstream archaeology acknowledges. Evidence of non-human intelligence on Earth in the distant past. The possibility human development isn't linear but cyclical, advanced civilizations rising and falling throughout prehistory. This technology at Skinwalker Ranch could rewrite textbooks about human origins and our place in the universe. The truth buried beneath Utah desert is about to expose that we're not the first advanced civilization on this planet. History as we know it is wrong.